Let's have a discussion for a few moments on the topic of perseverance. And this is taken from Swami Kriyananda's book, Affirmations for Self-Healing. And let us hear what Swamiji has to say on this topic of perseverance, because it's very interesting. He says, loyalty, Yogananda ji used to say, is the first law of God. Loyalty is the first law of God. Most people are fickle. They change their jobs, their spouses, their friends, their beliefs, their ideas, not because of any new expansion of awareness, but because they lack the simple power of perseverance. One must be loyal to one's principles and not allow oneself to be ruled by sentiment. To be loyal to others and to one's assumed goals in life, not for sentimental reasons, but in the name of principle, is the way of divine progress. Perseverance can be difficult, for in every undertaking, there is a certain amount of dull routine. Don't be ruled, therefore, by likes and dislikes, but do whatever has to be done. If it is right, let nothing intervene until the job is finished. Now, this is part of what makes this an interesting topic is one that many people really don't think of in terms of the spiritual path, or maybe in any terms. And it's certainly true what Swamiji says, that most people are fickle. It's hard for them to stick to one thing unless they're forced to. For some reason, I have this memory. When I was a child, my mother had a lady friend who would come and they would have tea. Sometimes they would go out together. And this lady, my mother sort of told me after one time that she came to visit, she said, imagine, this lady she's saying that she wants to leave her husband because, well, essentially she's bored. She says she's tired of washing his dirty handkerchiefs. And she says she doesn't know how lucky she is to have, a decent man like this, who this lady wasn't, they didn't have children, she wasn't working, she was supported comfortably. And what happened is eventually she did leave her husband. She ended up moving to an even smaller town and would write my mother letters often about how lonely and how she was even more unhappy than she was when she was living in our town. And so many people are. It's very hard to be rooted in, first of all, one has to have ideals, one has to have principles, and then to be rooted to them. And in a number of families, there's also these elements that this becomes a generational thing. Let's say one generation has to sacrifice, has to work very hard. Maybe it's after the partition here, or it's immigrating to a new country, or it's after a war, they have to start their lives from scratch all over again. And with a lifetime of sacrifices, they create a life that's more comfortable for their children and have money, give their children a good education. And then what happens? Their children take it for granted and they don't don't have the same kind of perseverance as their parents. And their parents are so surprised that who are these children anyways? They just seem so irresponsible and don't appreciate everything we've done for them. Often it's said in some families, if one generation makes many sacrifices and becomes wealthy, that the next generation will tend to just spend that wealth and not put out that same degree of energy. So that come the time of their children start again and have to focus and work very hard. And it's interesting here that this is also is true in all aspects of life, that very often people do not have this stick with itness. I remember one devotee who was serving with us, and lovely young girl and very devoted and very sweet. But it was very hard for her to persevere. You know, there was a certain job and I asked her, you know, would you like to do this? And she was quite excited about doing it. And she had all the skills needed to do it. And so then the next day I asked her, well, you know, how's the project going? And she said, oh, well, you know, I started it, but then I kind of got interested in something else and I drifted into this and that. And it was so difficult for her to persevere with one thing until it's completed. And so to many people on the spiritual path who are seekers, you know, many people come to us and they'll say, oh, you know, yes, you know, I was very dedicated to Reiki for a while, and then I did Vipassana, and then I did Art of Living, and now here I am here. But they could never stick with one thing. Now, this also has a certain value on our spiritual search, because each person, there's a particular path, there's a particular way that speaks to them, that they would like to go deep in that way. And it often takes a little bit of searching to find the way that feels most comfortable to you. And so it's really good to, at the beginning of the spiritual search, to read many books, to, you know, check out different practices and different organizations. But then when you find something that you want to go deeper in, then that's the time to focus and go deep. Because perhaps all of these different ways were valid and good, but you need to choose one and go deeply into that. And then what you find is that you reach the goal. And it could be the same goal that each of these true paths might take you to, but you can't just dabble a little bit in one and then another and then another. You need to choose one and go deep, and you realize that same reality, that same spiritual goal. And Yoganandaji said a very interesting statement to his disciples, and he put a lot of energy into this. He said, perseverance will free you, liberate you, moksha. Perseverance, not experiences of samadhi and wonderful visions and light and sound, not a superhuman effort on your part to do your sadhana. He didn't use any of those terms. He said perseverance, simply showing up every day to your asana, sitting and meditating, even in the days where it seems like it's boring or you have less enthusiasm, simply continuing, simply showing up. And Swamiji says, in every undertaking, there is a certain amount of dull routine. And this is true for our careers, it's true for marriage, and it's also true for the spiritual path, that sometimes there is what seems like dull routine. And if we can, when we know something is right, when we have a goal, then if we just persevere, it seems like it's a small effort to do each day, to simply, for example, sit and meditate each day. But that perseverance, it means that over the months, over the years, over a lifetime, we reach our goal because we made a continuous effort, a continuous small effort each day. And the results were cumulative. They just built up on one another. And so it's actually a very comforting thought that perseverance will free you. I don't have to be anybody that I'm not. I don't have to be a better yogi than I am. If I just persevere, that will free me. And what a wonderful, comforting thought for all of us who are spiritual seekers, to know that the goal is much less heroic, perhaps, and much more reachable if we simply know what our principles are, stick to our principles, and persevere step by step, day by day, towards that wonderful goal that awaits us. Let us repeat now the affirmation that Swamiji has given us. And let me just read it first all together. I will finish what I set my mind to do before leaving it for something else. My word is my bond. So also is my resolution. Let us affirm that together. First in a loud voice, please repeat after me. I will finish what I set my mind to do before leaving it for something else. My word is my bond. So also is my resolution. I will finish what I set my mind to do before leaving it for something else. My word is my bond. So also is my resolution. In a whisper now, I will finish what I set my mind to do before leaving it for something else. My word is my bond. So also is my resolution. Now mentally only, let's try to take this affirmation into the superconscious. I will finish what I set my mind to do before leaving it for something else. My word is my bond. So also is my resolution. You know, if you feel in yourself any difficulty with perseverance, sticking to one thing, you can try this practice, which he is saying here, even in some simple activity. Finish what you set your mind to do before leaving it for something else. If you've got one job to do, maybe it's going to take you just an hour. Start the job, focus, see it to completion before starting something else, before leaving it half finished and doing something else. And in this way, we can build up strength so that we can persevere day by day, also in more important projects. Swamiji says here, don't be ruled by likes and dislikes, but do whatever has to be done. And let us pray silently together. Though the sirens of distraction call me to turn aside and relax the sternness of my dedication, keep me steadfast on my path, Lord. My goal in life is Thee.